Okay, so look, when you're doing certain things, when you're just walking around or sitting down or whatever in life, right? When you're doing certain things, you're acting in a different capacity, even as a person, as a body, as a human, right? So when you're doing things, right? Let's say you give some money away, right, to family, right? So when you give money away to your family, right, you are acting in a certain capacity. So if you give money to them or even gifts, it's called gifts in kind, right? And you're allowed to give a certain amount of money without paying tax. You can give away to people, right? Particularly to a certain person. Another person can only receive so much. But if there are more people, right, each person can have a different allowance, right? So the more people that you give money to, right, up to how much they're allowed. Now, if you were doing a charity, right, if you've got a charity, right, and you are giving like a little bit to each thing, each charity, you can give a small amount to each charity. So you might give, this is family, but it also works for charities as well as family, right? It also works for charity because usually you give a little bit to each charity. Now, if you go into a shop to buy something for you, products, right? You're acting in a commercial as a consumer. You are buying things for you, commercial products for your house, furnishings or whatever. But if you walk to work and you've got a business, right? You are doing things for business. So you might do work and you can receive money. As long as you only receive a very small amount of money, you don't have to pay any tax to the government or even report that you're doing it. If you're doing that much business, right, that if you're doing that much business that your business, you do someone's gardening, then you do someone else's gardening, then you do someone else's gardening, and then you do someone else's gardening, right? And they give you money, right? They give you money, right? You can earn so much money without having to tell the government and without having to register a company and without having to register tax until you get so much that then you have to register as a company and tell the government. Now, that is acting in a business capacity. But if you go to church, right? When you go to church, right, and you're acting in a religious capacity, right, it's for spiritual purposes. So the things that you are doing, you don't pay tax on them, right? Because it's for religious purposes, including if you're donating to the church. Now, if the church is a big religion, it has to be VAT registered. If it's not a big religion, it doesn't need. If the religion is a body of people who only have a certain religion or spiritual belief, right? Then they aren't even registered. Same for education. You could have a research group who meet in a library and they read library books and they want to promote the meetings for the study and want people to come along and study with them, right? That is educational. They aren't going to be paying tax when they get the stuff printed out or the leaflets, right? And they can even have some goods like badges and pins and rosettes and things, right? Now, if it gets so big and they get so many followers and they're paying a subscription and the amount of things and promotion they're spending and the amount of goods they're getting is to a certain large number, lots and lots and lots of people joining, right? Lots and lots of people joining the study group, then it has to register and file with the government, right? But that doesn't mean to say that it's not for educational purposes, right? So when, as a body, as a person, right, you can, when you're in the house with your family, right, you are doing things usually for yourself, but as soon as you start giving things away for free, you're acting in a charitable capacity. If you're in the house, but then, you and your family are doing something else, you're acting in another capacity. And then if you're acting politically when you go to vote, just your person as a body, or even if you want to collect signatures from the public, you're acting in another capacity. Now, no matter if it's charitable, if it's educational, or if it's religious, right? As long as everything that you do is under a certain amount, a very small amount, you don't pay tax on it, and no one should be charging you tax on it either. You only get taxed if the amount that you're doing is over a certain volume, and then you have to register with the government and inform them, right? Now, therefore, if you are only doing a very small amount, when you're doing a political capacity, right, all the things you're doing for that capacity, you don't pay tax. Like when you are giving out even money to your family. Even if you give money to your family, it's not taxed. So if you walk into a shop to buy charitable flyers, right, to give out to your friends and family, to promote a charity event, you don't pay tax on them. Just like you don't pay the tax on the actual things you give away, because it's a small amount. Now, the business that you're getting the flyers or items off just need to look at it and say, this is charitable, right? Now, if you are doing a large amount of it, then you have to register with the government, but only if you are doing a large amount of it or not. How do the government know what amount you're doing? Well, this is the thing. You're meant to tell them, but that's got nothing to do with what is the nature of what you are doing at any given time. You can walk into the front room in your house and you can start donating to charities, whether it's over the phone or by post. Open a letter, write a letter, send some money. You are acting in a charitable capacity, right? Then let's say you've got a prayer room upstairs in the house, and then you go start praying, right? And you've got a couple of people coming round. You are acting in a religious capacity, right? And then let's say you go into your study and start reading, right? You're acting in an educational capacity. Then you get up and go to work, whether or not it's a big company or not, you're acting in a commercial business capacity. Now, these capacities that your body can act in are all governed by different laws. But when you're obtaining things, items to purchase to promote those activities, as long as those activities are under a certain amount, then you aren't taxed on them. Just like when you hand money over to your family, you're not taxed on it. You don't pay it. Now, if the companies are refusing to acknowledge the capacity that you're acting in, then they are in ignorance and they're in denial of what capacity you're acting in. It's like going into a church and saying this is not a church. It's like going into a charity shop and trying to say this is not a charity shop. And it's like, picking up a bottle of whiskey and saying this is not alcohol. It is what it is. The question is, what is the amount of what you're doing? If the amount is a very, very large amount, then they're going to want to know what your tax number is. But what's happening is people are going into shops and acting in a different capacity, right? And they're just being completely and totally ignored, and they're being demanded that they have to give tax number over. But yet they're not engaged in activities that are over a certain threshold. But yet they're still those type of activities, but a small amount. So they don't pay tax on them. I mean, what else is there to it? They're literally being, what they're engaged in is being completely ignored, right? Now I'm praying, now I'm giving things away, now I'm going to vote or getting petition signatures, right? You're being ignored because what they're doing is they're trying to claim that you don't have a capacity as an individual. What they're trying to make out is you don't have any rights as an individual. It's a miracle that, if you go into a shop, right, and there's a mum and a dad stood there, and the little kid says, I'm in a shop now, can you print me up some flyers, please, or some leaflets or some stickers, right? And then the dad says, actually, son, I'll buy you those. And he gets his wallet out and he gives the money to his kid and says, there you go, son, there's £50 there. It's a miracle that the person behind the shop counter doesn't say, oh, just a minute, you just give your son 50 quid. What's your tax number? What's your VAT number? Are you going to pay tax on that? You owe the government some money for that £50 you've just given your kid there. I can't accept that money from you until you've given the government some money. Just a minute, I can give my son certain money without paying tax up to a certain amount. And we're going to buy some flyers for our charity do in the village. It's only small, so we're not paying you any tax. It's basically like the shop saying, claiming that, you are some sort of enterprise or political party. No, I'm not a political party. I'm an individual, it's almost like, that they're trying to claim that, you're just giving massive amounts of money away all the time. Well, actually, no, it's a small amount. This is the thing.